Ifo, your family has moved down here and they've relocated yet, or?
So my family will join me at the end of October. My three oldest are finishing off their volleyball season. So, we'll close on our house in a couple weeks, but they'll be here end of October.
And you have 8 kids,
I do.
right?
Yes.
And I read that you were, at 23, you were a member of a bishopric in your church.
I was,
And
yeah.
you were playing football at that time.
I was.
So,
in my
have
master's
you-
program, yeah, with a few kids.
How did all of that life experience prepare you for multitasking as a city administrator and now our city manager?
That's really what you do as a city manager. You constantly have to wear a bunch of different hats, and I think the main thing that's helped me with is learning how to trust people around you. Whatever organization you're a part, within your family, within your church, within the city, you can't do it alone. You need people.
And what role has your faith played in your life?
My faith is everything. I appreciate the question, actually. Thank you. My faith is everything to me. I feel like whatever role, whatever hat, whatever job I've had, I've relied on my faith to carry me through. And if I found any success in those areas, it's because of my faith.
And now I know that one of your goals for our city is tackling our high poverty rate. What are some of your plans to address that?
Economic development is, to me, is the dinner. That's the bread of the city. And it's not just about businesses. It's not just about getting, just going out and getting big business to come. Economic development just covers so many different things. But to me, it's about jobs and about income. And nothing does that better for a city than economic development. So that's one of the main things I'm going to go after. There are some other issues that are, to be honest, some blind spots for me that I'm learning about.
What would you say are some of those?
I've been talking to some of our counselors that have expertise in mental health field. From a city, as a city administrator, I've never had to, have those issues as a city administrator. I never attacked those issues before, but I'm learning that if we're looking at poverty, we have to go to the core of some of these issues, and I have to learn about it, how the city can be instrumental and partner in those areas. But that's one. The other thing is, affordable housing is a big deal, because at the end of the day, no matter what types of jobs you bring in, if you have no place for people to stay that's affordable for them, then it just defeats the whole purpose of raising people's income levels. And I come from coming from Eagle Mountain, I've seen a city grow from a place that was affordable to just, the prices have skyrocketed with homes.
And you think we have that here, that we have a lack of affordable housing?
I think so, and I think if there isn't a lack now, there will be, because Las Cruces is a place people want to move to. They love it here. There's so much, around the country, so much stir about coming to Las Cruces that when that happens, home prices just go up.
I'm interested in what your economic development philosophy is. What sorts of strategies do you think worked in Eagle Mountain that you would employ here, or what are some things that the city may not have tried yet?
Sure. Again, for me, it's about job creation, number one. It's not just about chasing tax dollars. It's about creating jobs that are going to benefit your current residents first and foremost. With that, it also brings jobs for others to come in and take advantage of. But I think foremost, you have to figure out what your residents are going to latch on to. What types of skills, you got to assess what types of skills and what types of education interests are in your community. And then you go out and look for those companies that'll match, that'll raise the standard of living. And it's not even just about bringing in companies that would bring any job, right? It's the right job, the jobs that'll elevate your community, elevates your current residents.
What do you see as some of those jobs?
You know, in Eagle Mountain, we went after Facebook, we went after Tyson.
And you got them.
And we got them. We went after other Fortune 100 companies. And the reason why we were interested in those large, because we knew the capital investment. And so, when I talk about Facebook and Tyson, they're two companies on opposite sides of the spectrum. But the theme there is high-paying jobs and a lot of jobs, right? And so companies that will bring that income level, but also a mixture, diverse economy is always the best, but a lot of jobs and high-paying jobs.
Yeah. Facebook and Tyson Foods both received pretty big tax breaks and incentives to relocate in Eagle Mountain. The city, as you know, just had this opportunity to put a TID over on the old country club land that would have similarly had massive tax breaks to a private developer. The developer ultimately pulled out, and city councilors and residents showed skepticism. Was the city right to show skepticism over that TID? Or do you think that big tax breaks to private companies is key to economic growth and is part of your development philosophy?
Sure. For me, it's all about ROI. So we will never give a company more than what we get, right out the gate, right? It's all about ROI. And so, with the Facebook deal, one of the biggest incentives in the history of the state, and I got flack for that, but when you look at the ROI, it was over 1,000% return on our investment, over 1,000%. I take that all day, every day. And so you'd have to look at each development individually. You can't have a blanket approach or even a blanket philosophy to economic development. It has to be, you have to take it one business at a time. But again, it starts off with ROI. What's your return on what you're providing them? The other thing is, for me, incentives have to be post-performance. You don't ever want to put your city in jeopardy. You don't want to ever provide something up front and then put your city at risk of losing that investment. So most of the incentives, I say this is the biggest incentive in the history of the city, but the history of the state, but it was all post-performance. So if they don't perform, they don't get their money.
Okay.
And those dollars never came out of the taxpayers' pockets. It's money they bring in and they get back, right?
Yeah, so the TID proposal was about $470 million of private investment in return for an estimated $240 million in different types of tax breaks and incentives. Is that too small of a return on investment, or is that something where you would, I guess, how would you negotiate those types of deals? Because that was after negotiations with the city.
Sure.
So you don't have to comment on the TID specifically, obviously, but in terms of negotiating with private companies, getting the most tax money for the city versus drawing those private companies.
Yeah, you always want to maximize what you get, right? You always have to, you're out to protect the interests of the city. At the same time, you want to bring in a company that'll be successful, and you want to create an environment that'll be successful. And ideally, you don't start off with, I don't like to start off with offering any company the world, right? I want them to come in and stand on their own, and you offer what you have to. Regarding the TID though, I haven't had the opportunity to sit down and really analyze that. I do know that from the staff members and counselors that I've talked to, everybody's acting within the best interest of the city. So our staff and our officials, all they want to do is protect the interests of the city, and you can't go wrong. And so, coming in as an outsider, coming in and looking at that deal, I really don't have anything to say about it because I don't know. But I do know that any action that was taken, I think they're acting in the best interest of our city.
Mm-hmm. Now, when did you become city administrator in Eagle Mountain? It was mid-2012, right?
2012, yeah.
Okay. I know that Eagle Mountain was criticized by the state auditor in 2014 over using funds inappropriately in regards to the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association. They said that those funds may have been unnecessary in some regards. Our city, similarly, in recent audits, was criticized for not paying certain employees overtime pay, or for some potential improper financial dealings with private entities. How are you going to assure residents that their funds are being managed responsibly?
You know, financial strength and stability is number one for me. That audit, just so you know, I called the state auditor myself. Somebody in the community wrote this report that really caused a huge divide in the city, false accusations. And so I personally called the state auditor asking for an audit because I wanted him to put it to rest. I wanted him to come through, I wanted him to go through each of this and tell us exactly what they felt was right about it, and so that the residents can have trust in the city. For me, it's all about transparency. And if there are any accusations or distrust, I'd like to hit it at the core. The way I ensure that is if I need to call the state auditor to come audit us, I will, just to show the residents where we are. Everything should be above board. With Las Cruces, I think that's one of the things that attracted me to the city of Las Cruces. Is I felt like that's been the culture. I know there's been, I don't know about what other accusations there were, but I do know that there's a culture here of transparency. People want to do the right thing, and I wouldn't want to go to a city that didn't want to do the right thing. And when I say go to a city where staff, council, even the residents want transparency and want to do the right thing. And I feel I feel we have that here in Las Cruces. That's why I wanted to come.
Do you plan on talking to staff who were around for some of this alleged financial mismanagement that turned up in audits in effort to give
Absolutely.
citizens that transparency?
Absolutely.
Your salary drew a little bit of controversy when the contract was approved. I guess, how do you justify that to some residents who might be concerned that you're making almost 20% more than the previous city manager was?
The way I would respond, Michael, just the same way I respond with economic development. It's all about ROI. If the city feels that you give me some time, and if you feel that the salary isn't worth what I bring to the table, then find somebody else. That's the way I look at it. It's all about ROI for me. You have to produce. You can't just come and collect a paycheck. It's going after those objectives and doing what you said you're going to do when you took the job.
And you'll also be hiring the new police chief. So do you have any thoughts on that role that you're going to be undertaking?
Yeah, that's something I'm actually looking forward to. That'll help me understand, even better what the desires of the community are through this process. So I'm glad I get to be a part of that process, coming in and assessing the situation. Where I come from, police officers are rock stars. That's the community I come from. They're the heroes in our community, and I know that's contrary to what's going on in the country right now.
How do you feel about what's going on in the country right now?
It's hard for me to say. I mean, you got to take each city and each circumstance, individually. I don't get into blanket statements, or even especially as a city manager, I certainly don't get into the politics, right? Mm-hmm. It's all, I keep myself away from the politics side of it. But I know that, our police officers, wherever you are, they put their lives on the line. Mm-hmm. And their job is to protect the community, and my job as a city manager is to make sure that happens.
Any specific things you're going to be looking for as you hire a new police chief?
There are a couple of things that I've made note of, and one, I'd like a police chief that is community-minded, that does, again, like I said, I come from a place where police officers are rock stars. And part of the reason is they are a part of the community. They do go out. They go out to the carnivals and get pie smashed in their face. They get dunked in the dunk tank. And one thing that I think people fail to realize in the community, the police officers are their neighbors, right? Are their, these aren't just people that are coming in. These are part of the community. They usually live here. They grew up here, and I need somebody that will make sure that that's perpetuated. That people realize that they are part of the community because of their actions, right? And the way they treat people.
But we've had incidents here of excessive force. We've had incidents of people with mental health issues being shot by police.
Yeah.
Is that something you're going to be looking at addressing?
Yeah, I definitely need to understand those situations. I've heard about those, and we'll definitely get briefed on some of those recent incidents.
Talk to me about, in New Mexico, we have an anti-donation clause in our Constitution, and it means that when dealing with private entities, the city is constrained in certain ways. I guess, how are you going about approaching that, and have you looked into that much, and how do you see the city working with private companies contracting with them?
So I've been given some details on maybe some of the nuances here in New Mexico. Of course, in Utah, we may call it a little different, by a different name, but there's the same guidelines
Okay.
and requirements that we have to abide by. But for me, again, fiscal responsibility is key, is number one, and that fits right in to that, right? I mean, I think the anti-donation clause is there to protect the residents' tax dollars, and so that nobody is being favored. I'm very much in favor of government staying out of where they need to stay out of, not picking winners or losers, right, and letting business do business properly. And so I'm looking forward to getting schooled on maybe some of the nuances here in New Mexico regarding that.
You were an adjunct professor at BYU.
I was,
right?
yeah.
What do you get out of teaching?
Oh, that's been one of my highlights of my career, is being able to teach. So the class that I teach is a advanced local government class. So anybody who wants to go into city government, this is the last class they take. This is my last opportunity to indoctrinate them right in the school of Efo's thoughts on local government management.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's been neat. It's been neat to see these aspiring city managers or local government officials come through. We also teach a lot of students from the Masters of Civil Engineering, Masters of Engineering program. They also take my class as well. But no, it's been a treasure, man. It's been a great opportunity.
Are you going to be doing that at New Mexico State?
I was asked that, and if they'll have me. No one's offered me that, but also.
Were you teaching when you left your old job to come here?
I did. I was. Not this fall though. Not.
Okay.
We just barely started, and I had to. To give it up, but yeah.
I know that in an interview you talked about your father owned a couple of burger joints, and he named some the Efo burger.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, can you put green chili on an Efo burger?
We should have. Yes, we had a fast food chain named after me. The logo was this little fat kid holding a burger. Supposed to be me.
Oh, is it?
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, it was. We had a chain in American Samoa growing up, and I'm convinced that green chili does belong on a burger now. Yeah.
Have you had one?
I've had one.
You have?
Yes.
Where did you go?
So I think this one I had was at La Posta.
Okay, not a bad choice.
Yeah.
Your father ran for governor in Samoa, right?
He did. Yeah.
How did you come from American Samoa here? to Utah?
You know, so, man, you do your research, Michael. I appreciate that. And mentioning my father, that my father's been my hero, right? I watched him not only running for governor, but he also been in government his whole life. He was in the House of Representatives there. Even in administrative, he passed away as the treasurer for our government. But my whole career in government, my interest in government has come from watching my father, and so that kind of drove me. That I came to Utah. At the time, I had a lot of goals and aspirations about playing in the NFL, going to college, and pursuing my career. And at the time, people weren't recruiting, colleges weren't recruiting in American Samoa. And so, the plan was for me to go to live with my brother and do that. But now it's just the opposite. You have a better chance of getting recruited for football in American Samoa than you do in Utah.
How old were you when you came here, you said?
So I was about 13 or 14,
Wow.
14 years old.
Wow. And why did you, I think you might have explained this to me, but why did you leave football to begin a career in government?
It was kind of interesting, and to be honest, I was cut first, and it was not the choice to leave football. It was more so the choice not to go back. Like I loved the NFL. I loved getting paid to play football. I began my career as an undrafted free agent, so I bounced around different teams, trying to make the squad. That's why I played with different teams. And it was a time where I really felt like I found my spot. I was going to go back and play for the Jets. You had a coach there that knew what I could do. He came from the New England Patriots, and this was a time where I felt like I was going to be the peak of my career there. But I will say it was easier to choose not to go back than to choose to just leave, right? But I fell in love with the city of Eagle Mountain. I got there, and I felt like it was a city that needed me. Whether they did or not, I felt like they did. I felt like this is something I can really make a difference. And then, a part that I don't talk about much, but you started off with my faith, right? And I don't normally get those questions in the interviews, but I appreciate it because, part of it too, I wanted to settle down. I had 3 daughters. It was kind of hard to play Barbies with them and then go to practice, go to work, and go kill quarterbacks, right? I mean, and then also, the Sabbath for me was something that it was hard for me to go to work on the Sabbath, right? And so that was something that helped me to, all within my decision to stay.
Just 2 more things I wanted to get from you, because we're going to finish up quickly. But I just want to get you on record on this. So the financial mismanagement that the auditor found about the Rodeo Cowboys convention, you're saying that those were false accusations?
Yeah. So there was.
Because I had read that they found that they cleared your city of other financial mismanagement, but those ones were supposedly sustained, at least in the report that I had read.
Yeah. So basically, what the auditor said was that there were a couple things like going to the PRCA convention.
They said that the city provided documentation that actually served at like an educational purpose.
Yeah, and I mean, you tell me. We have a PRCA rodeo. We have our PRCA committee going to a PRCA convention. I mean, okay, you could say that, and that's really what it was. It was like we don't think that that's something they should have gone to.
Okay.
That's basically what they said in there.
And I asked just because my main question is just as city manager, I guess, how do you see your role as preventing the misuse of tax dollars?
Oh, that's one of my main responsibilities. And you know what, Michael, to be honest, at the end of the day, you know, you talk about, you know, these organizations or accusations in different areas of the city. At the end of the day, that's on me. Okay, so it doesn't even matter, in my opinion, what part of the organization that happens. If it's under my watch, it's on me. And if there is anything that's going on, I take responsibility for that. I take that personally. I do feel like that's one of my main responsibilities. And the sooner I can get systems in place, or feel comfortable that there's systems in place that allow me to focus on other things, I can do that. But my primary responsibility is to make sure that tax dollars are kept sacred.
Last question for you.
What is one mistake that you made as an administrator in Eagle Mountain or as an employee of Eagle Mountain that you won't make in Las Cruces?
Oh, that's a good question. 'Cause I've made a lot of them. I've made a lot of mistakes over my career. Let's see. So the question is, what's a mistake
What's
that
one
I made
mistake,
there that
as you've been in government, you've been city administrator you were about 8 years there, and before that you were in various other roles, right? And so I guess what's one mistake you remember maybe early on in your job, or as you first learned how to be a city administrator, something that you made a mistake you learned from, and you'll take that knowledge going into this job, kind of like a standard job interview question.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure, because I think I was asked, I may have been asked that. One thing I have learned over the years is how to utilize and trust the people around you. And I mentioned this earlier. You know, I was actually the acting city administrator at 26 years old when I first came to Eagle Mountain. That's one of the reasons I stayed, right? Because to go hire, who eventually became my own boss. But it was a city that needed somebody there. And so I did a lot of growing up there, right? I mean, I like I said, I made a lot of mistakes, and I have learned from them. But learning that you can't do it alone, I've learned to really trust and really build on that trust of the people around me, because it can get overwhelming sometimes. It can, especially when you're managing, what I say, several different companies, right? When you look at a city, you have utilities, you have police. I mean, they're totally different organizations, but all within one, and trying to manage everyone together.
Delegating and trusting their power.
Delegating, and also moving in the same direction, but yet with everyone else's individual objectives. But that's one thing I've learned over the years, and that's why family, when I refer to my staff as family, I really believe that. I really believe that you have to cultivate a team environment in order to be successful.
I think we're good. Well, Ifo, I really appreciate you taking some time today.
Oh.
Can I fist bump you? I think that might be safe enough.
Remember, I'm negative, so.
Oh, that's true. I mean, I don't go out much, so.